Even so he spake, but I answered him, saying, Lo now, in very sooth, has Zeus of the far-born voice wreaked wondrous hatred on the seed of Atreus, through the counsels of women from of old. For Helen's sake so many of us perished, and now Clytemnestra hath practised treason against thee, while yet thou wast afar off. Even so I spake, and anon he answered me, saying, Wherefore do thou too never henceforth be soft even to thy wife, neither show her all the counsel that thou knowest, but a part declare, and let part be hid. Yet shalt not thou, Odysseus, find death at the hand of thy wife, for she is very discreet and prudent in all her ways, the wise Penelope, daughter of Agamemnon. Verily we left her a bride new wed when we went to the war, and a child was at her breast, who now, methinks, sits in the ranks of men, happy in his lot. For his dear father shall behold him on his coming, and he shall embrace his sire as is meet. But as for my wife, she suffered me not so much as to have my fill of gazing on my son, ere she slew me, even her lord. And yet another thing I will tell thee, and do thou ponder it in thy heart. Put thy ship to land in secret, and not openly, on the shore of thy dear country, for there is no more faith in woman. But come, declare me this, and plainly tell it all. If haply ye hear of my son as yet living, either it may be in Orchomenus or sandy Pylos, or perchance with Menelaus in wide Sparta. For goodly Orestes hath not yet perished on the earth. Bit more from Agamemnon today, and giving Odysseus a bit of a warning, a little bit of a ghostly advice. Not quite a prophecy the way that Tiresias gave, basically telling Odysseus, yo, look what happened to me. You can't trust women, am I right? So what you better do is when you arrive home, do it in secret. Hide your ship. Don't let anyone know that you're returning. But even so, Agamemnon is acknowledging that Penelope isn't Clytemnestra, and that Penelope is prudent and wise and doesn't have vengeful hatred in her heart for her husband. Kind of turns it into an "oh, woe is me" scenario, because he's imagining Odysseus reuniting with Telemachus, whereas Agamemnon was never given that chance when he returned home from the Trojan War. And the passage ends after all of that advice with a bit of a question that Odysseus is gonna have to answer tomorrow, I assume, saying, after talking about the reuniting of sons and how he never got to do that with Orestes, he's asking, is Orestes still alive? A question that Agamemnon doesn't know because he never saw his son before he died, which gives an insight into the limited view the dead have in the underworld. You know, I think a lot of views of the afterlife nowadays has a sort of omniscience, I don't know if that's the right word, attached to it, where, you know, you hear the terms looking down on me, you know, all the time, or always around, which that does not seem to be the case here. The physical boundary between the underworld and the living world extends so far beyond physicality into visibility. And that transforms the underworld, the idea of the afterlife, into a completely different psychological thing. I'm curious if it holds true of like the Elysian Fields. Do they go there knowing or thinking that they will just see their loved ones when the time comes and not kind of keep tabs on them before they arrive in the land of the dead? I think this is also giving us a little bit of insight into Agamemnon himself, where a lot of the logic here doesn't hold up. It does seem a little paranoid. Now, granted, he was murdered, but there was a whole thing leading up to why he was murdered. Again, I'm not going to go into whether or not that's right or wrong, et cetera, et cetera. But I do find it interesting that he's not like, oh, yeah, if you've done any wrong deeds in your life, maybe take the advice to take away is that you will end up paying for them someday. Or if you've left any bad blood back home, then there might be reason to doubt the safety of your return. Instead, he's saying, yeah, you can't trust women. Women, right? They're the problem. Like, not just a woman, but women as a group cannot be trusted, with Penelope, as I said, being the exception to that. So I don't know what that says about Agamemnon. I can't imagine that beyond this scene, Agamemnon's going to play much more role in the story, but who knows? Maybe we will encounter him later on down the line. There is a lot of mythology, Greek plays, etc., referencing Agamemnon. I would argue that Agamemnon might actually appear in more mythological stories and plays than Odysseus does. Maybe. Don't hold me to that. That was just something I felt in my gut and said it. I know there are a set of plays by later playwrights about Agamemnon directly. He's been written about in Apollodorus and later into Plutarch, and all kinds of places recognize him as a pivotal figure of this Greek mythological era. But what about Odysseus here? I'm trying to get his sense here, where that very first paragraph, which he is responding to Agamemnon from the day before, talking about how Clytemnestra killed him when he returned home. Odysseus says here, "Lo now, in very sooth, hath Zeus of the far-born voice wreaked wondrous hatred on the seed of Atreus," that's Agamemnon, "through the counsels of women from of old. For Helen's sake, so many of us perished, and now Clytemnestra hath practiced treason against thee." So is he saying that Helen and Clytemnestra were part of the hatred that Zeus wreaked upon them? Or are those two disconnected thoughts? Is he just saying, oh, yeah, you've had a life of bad luck? Or is he saying that Zeus used Helen and Clytemnestra as tools in his spite against Agamemnon? I don't know. But either way, what is he trying to convey to Agamemnon there? I think it's simply just acknowledging the plight that Agamemnon is conveying to Odysseus, a sort of commiseration or compassion that Odysseus is showing for the dead, as opposed to arguing with him, being like, yeah, you're right. It sucked that we all, went to war for Helen's sake. And then, like your wife killed you because you killed your daughter. That seems like a you thing, and we all kind of suffered for it. So maybe suck it up. He's not saying that. He's not taking that approach. He is treating Agamemnon with respect and honor. Okay, let us join together tomorrow as we get further into Book 11. We've only got 5 episodes left. So, until then, okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.